Welcome back to the David Kurten Show here on today's News Talk TNT. And it is fantastic to have back on the show Mads Palsvig, who is the leader of the Prosperity Party in Denmark. Mads, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, David. Good to see you again.
Yeah, really good to see you again. Now, I want to talk to you about some, the general issues that you write about and speak about on X and on social media, as well as leading the party in Denmark. And that relates to something that happened in the news in the UK yesterday. There was an incident at Manchester Airport where a couple of Israelis were stopped, in a routine check. They were held for a couple of hours and then let into the country. But there was a complete outpouring of the narrative that these people have been treated badly. They've been treated with anti-Semitism because they come from Israel. But if someone came from Russia or Afghanistan and they were given the same treatment, no one would bat an eyelid. Do you think that the narrative of anti-Semitism is talked up more than that actually there is anti-Semitism in existence in the West?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's leading Jewish scholars admit openly that it's a tool they use to get sympathy, and they're very successful in this. They managed to take over literally every institution in America. 85% of the Biden administration is Jewish, so they are very successful. And you mentioned Russia. Now, my wife is Russian Jewish, so I'm of course I am knowledgeable about what's going on there. And if you talk about anti-Russianism, if such a word exists, most people are not aware that Russian people were collectively punished for Putin's special military operation in Ukraine by having all their assets frozen overnight. They didn't even get 24 hours to transfer their money to Dubai or elsewhere. They just had all their assets frozen. So you have collective punishment of all Russians. I cannot send a package to my mother-in-law. I cannot send money to my mother-in-law. I cannot travel directly to my mother-in-law. I have to spend €1,000 to travel through Istanbul or Dubai to visit my mother-in-law, who is old, who is fragile, who is in hospital, on and off. And this is collective punishment, but this is just Russians. And then if you are reading the Talmud, then you would see that they write that a Jew is worth 10,000 non-Jewish, and a Jew should have 2,800 non-Jewish slaves. These are not my words. These are written in the Talmud. And I believe that some of the Jews in Hollywood and some of the Jews in the U.S. administration are clearly Talmud followers, because the chutzpah to think that you are entitled to 85% of the good jobs, and that goes for not only the Biden administration, that goes for all the leading jobs on U.S. universities, all the social engineering, the woke culture that is happening there, the anti-Christian, the hostility towards Christian people. The Hollywood is also 85% Talmud followers, and it's nonstop white guilt, social engineering, hate towards white people. Just open your borders. We need to get rid of the white people. And they literally, you can find so many examples of leading scholars, writers, politicians in the Knesset talking openly about not only genociding the Amalek, they call the Palestinians, but actually all white people. So I think it's about time that all Jewish people, all the good Jewish people, and I know a lot of them, when you have a Jewish wife, you get a lot of Jewish friends. I love them. And I need more Jewish people now to go out and say, excuse me, maybe if we only 2% of America, maybe we shouldn't have more than 4 to 5% at most of the leading post in the society. Because it's all, who's talking about the diversity? It's the Jews who are talking about the diversity. It's the Jews who are using this tool of calling diversity by shaming and white guilt tripping the white people, because we're all behind the Holocaust, all of us. Not only some psychopathic Nazis, but who wanted to loot Jewish wealth, but all white people have to pay. So you can have while Americans don't have free healthcare, if a Jew is sick in America, they have free healthcare, even including organ transplantations. So there is a rule for thee and the rule for the other people. And this is based on this philosophy of collective punishment that is inherent in the Talmud. This Amalek, kill all of them. So if one Muslim commits a crime against a Jew, then kill all of them. This is collective punishment. Wow. This is not Christian. In Christianity, we have an eye for an eye, which means if someone is committing a crime, you can go for one person and only him. You cannot kill his wife and children. It's not a Christian thing to do. And I would like to see a more Christian world order in the Christian societies, and a Muslim and a Hindu and a Buddhist in their societies, of course. I'm not saying Christians should be running the whole show. I'm just saying in the Christian countries, I would like to see a Christian world order of love, of forgiveness, of all men are created equal, and never collective punishment, only the perpetrator. And what we're seeing is we're having a Talmudian world order right now, perpetrated by the 85% in the Biden administration, and that is hate, that is revenge, that is racial supremacy. That the only genocide we're allowed to hear about is crimes committed against Jewish people. The 50 to 100 million Russian, mainly Orthodox Christians that were murdered, we're not allowed to talk about. Any other genocide it's not important, because there is a racial supremacy inherent in the Talmud. And I would like to see all my Jewish friends who might watch this, and any other Jewish person who are lovely people, and I love Jewish people. They're bright, they're fun to be with, they're great people. But please come on, now I mean, if you're promoting diversity, then try to be a little bit diverse. Allow some Hindus, some Buddhists, some Muslims, and Christians to be allowed to make some movies and run the Wall Street, run the universities, get an occasional seat in the Congress and the Biden administration.
That is absolutely extraordinary figure. 85% of the Biden administration being Jewish. I didn't know it was that high. Being a Christian myself, and I'd say the majority of people in the United States, which obviously is the most powerful country in the West, would say they're Christian. But I think that there is a very big blind spot here, because a lot of Christians would support Jews because they think of themselves as living in a Judeo-Christian culture, and think that Judaism is just, the Bible without the New Testament. It's just the Old Testament. And a lot of Christians have never even heard of the Talmud. I mean, I myself, I'd never heard of the Talmud until 3 or 4 years ago. I wasn't even aware of its existence. And I've now come to understand some of the things that are in it. And it's absolutely horrific. And it means that if you follow the Talmud, which was written in the 1st to the 4th century AD, as a rejection of Christ. I mean, Christ is the fulfillment of the Old Testament, and a lot of Jews are Christians. There are Messianic Jews who follow Christ, and gone that way. But there are some who follow the Talmud, and it's a horrific book, isn't it? And I think everyone should be aware of what's in there. And you've put that very, very well and succinctly, how that book is now having an incredible influence over Christian nations.
Yeah, I mean, the reason that you and I probably were not aware of that until, in my case, also 3-4 years ago, is because there's a death penalty for a Jew to tell a non-Jew about the Talmud. They know that it's not good. And in the Talmud, they also write that you are free to commit any crime against non-Jewish people. Even on the annual Purim, to take part in the annual Purim, I just posted a video of how they have kids dress up as Arabs and Jews, and then in the Purim, the kids in the schools are killing the Arabs. I'm not kidding. It's happening. This is what they do. And on the Purim, they have to go in, if they take part in that. I'm not saying in all synagogues, because I'm not in all synagogues, but in certain synagogues, they have, when they take part in the Purim, in the annual ritual, they have to promise to break all promises to non-Jews in the following 12 months. And that's totally fine. And I mean, come on. Now that's enough. I mean, and there are so many assimilated, or whether they are religious or non-religious Jewish people out there, I think, you had a good run. We all love you. We're not going to collectively punish you, all of you, for what some evil Jewish people have done of crimes. We are Christian people. We will only go for those who actually committed a crime. We're not going to go after his wife or his kids. This is not a Christian thing to do. And then I have another thing I would like to say is the Germans have been punished for 80 years. I mean, can you find an inch, an ounce of forgiveness in your heart? Isn't this enough? Isn't it enough now? The latest gimmick they now have found out is that now they have to be really ritualistically humiliated during the European Football Championship, and the German men are forced to play in pink.
No.
Come on.
I didn't know that. That's terrible, isn't it?
It is so in your face. We own you. Come on. That's not good. We are nice people, and the Jewish people are nice people. We are all nice people. We should get along. And the thing is, the minute Germany get their freedom again, then Germany and Russia will find out that they could benefit each other with Russian energy, German ingenuity, and we would have freedom, democracy, and prosperity beyond belief if only we are allowed to not be socially engineered into hating each other and fighting all these ridiculous wars that already cost at least 500,000 young men their lives in Ukraine. It's horrible.
Yeah, well, it goes back a long way, doesn't it? I mean, I think, we've had the world wars of the last century, but I think the greatest tragedy or tragedies of the last century is that there was enmity created between England or Britain and Germany, and Russia and Germany, and America and Germany, and now America and Russia, and Britain and Russia. And we have 4 great Christian nations here. If we all got along and helped each other and supported each other and worked for creating prosperity and building a Christian society in a Christian world, how incredible would the world be? But there's continual enmity being stirred up, and I speak against it. You speak against it. I mean, look at the Russophobia in all of the mainstream media, all over the West, because of what's going on in Ukraine, and you just think that this is perpetuating the tragedy and perpetuating, something that is desperately wrong here, when we should all stop fighting against each other and start being friends again.
I totally agree, and if I can add this fight against Russians, it's again a sanction against human beings of flesh and blood with a beating heart. It's against the Russian people. It's not against and also all us non-Russians who have friends and family we love in Russia. It's not against. I mean, it's not against the corporations. 97% of all Western corporations who were there in March 2022 are still there. You can buy everything there. I was there last year visiting my Russian family, and everything is there. And the standard of living is just going one way. The sanctions are not working. The Russian people are hardworking. They don't understand this hate. They're very serious people. They're ready to fight. They don't want to fight. But if you want to fight, they will hit back. And I have no shadow of doubt. If there is a war, they will win it. And I try very hard to show a third way. So you have one way, you are either pro China and Russia or you're pro NATO. But I would like to say there is actually another way. That is, there are some people who are running both, who are trying to stir up the beans and get both sides to fight each other. And I think it goes back a long way. If you read books by Golitsyn and Bezmenov, they suggest that it was actually engineered in the Soviet Union back in the 60s. All the social engineering in the West, the youth revolution, the feminism, the attack on Christianity, it was all engineered in the atheistic communist Soviet Union back in the 60s. These are first-hand witnesses who were present in the meetings who say that. And you can see it might have happened by other means, but there were definitely a motive, and they tried to do it, and they've succeeded to doing it. So that's the third way I'm trying to say is that if someone is trying to infiltrate and destroy our Christian nations, and they're trying to make us fight with Russia and China.
Yeah, well, I mean, I absolutely agree with you because, looking back in history, just very briefly, there was this hideous revolution in 1917. The royal Romanov family was executed by, Bolsheviks, and most of the Bolsheviks were Jewish, Talmudist Jewish people. And then revolution didn't happen and take off in the West, so cultural Marxism was developed. That goes back from the 60s, and then it also goes back to the Frankfurt School in the 1920s as well. And one of the people involved in the Comintern at the time was Willy Munzenberg, who is reported to have said, "We will make Western civilization stink. We will change and undermine all its values and make life impossible." So, that's really horrible. It's quite satanic. You've got these people who actually genuinely wanted to do that. But, Mads, I totally agree with you on all of these things. I wish we could talk for much longer because, we've just touched the surface on this issue. And, what you're saying about feminism being created. This is a cultural Marxist ideology where women are seen to be oppressed and they need to rise up and smash the patriarchy. And then you have homophobia and transphobia where the LGBTs are created as a group and then they need to rise up and smash heteronormativity and undermine Christian values and so on. So this is going on in multiple different parts of society, and we can see it. But anyway, Mads, thank you so much for joining me on the show today, and I really wish you well and the best with your prosperity party in Denmark. I hope one day we can be in the places of power and we can turn things around and we can get things back to normal. Mads Palsvig, thank you for joining me here on today's News Talk TNT.